How's it everyone? This is Lolcohol, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you a bunch of tips that you can use in Path of Exile 2 to have a better time, especially if you are a new player. This game is notoriously complex. The passive skill tree is overwhelming, itemization, skills, all of it. There is a lot to take in and digest, but I have a few smaller tips that you may overlook that will give you a better time. Now the first tip, and this is gonna sound so lame, but I promise you it is one of the most important things, is to just read stuff. If you find a new skill gem and don't know what it does, read what it does. Look at the little video that is provided. If you don't know what a certain modifier does, there's often these little dots underneath a modifier and you can click it to explain it. If you want to know what a passive does, read it. This sounds so stupid, but I promise you, like 90% of people don't do this. They won't read the whole thing. They might read like a little bit of it, not really process it. There's no rush. If you want to have a good time, do this. I promise you, you will become a better player than like 95% of other people. There are also resources out right now, little things of like the skill tree and skill gems, PoE skills 2.com, or I will link it in the description. You can start going through the gems, reading now, so you can get a little bit of a head start. So read, do your reading. Next up is to identify your items before you sell them. So if you identify your rare items and your magic items before you sell them, you will get a larger amount of gold. And good news is that in PoE 2, we're going to have the hooded one. This is an NPC you find very early on in Act 1. This guy will be your Decade Cane throughout Path of Exile 2. You can just take your items to him, click one button, and it will identify your items en masse. Then you can sell them, get more gold for it. But there's no point selling unidentified items. You're just going to be getting less gold for it. And you're going to be needing your gold because of the next thing, which is gambling. So PoE 2, there will be vendors that you can go to who you can gamble to get a good item. So there will be a whole lot of unidentified items that you can look at. You can buy it from them for a fairly hefty price, but this will give you a chance at a potential upgrade. You could get a rare item that is a big upgrade. You could even, if you're very lucky, get a unique item of that base class. For this, I don't want to give too many specific recommendations, but let's just say if you are struggling with damage and your weapon is bad, then try and gamble for a weapon that could be an upgrade for you. Also, another thing that could be really nice to gamble for are things like pieces of jewelry and boots. If you can get boots with increased movement speed, having that extra mobility to move around the battlefield, very nice defensive layer. But don't forget about gambling. You could find some very nice upgrades. And then similarly to gambling, you can also get item upgrades from vendors. Vendors are these NPCs, you'll find them in town. Some of them will sell you things like armors and weapons. Other ones will sell you caster items like wands, scepters, flasks, those kinds of things. So check your vendors. Every level, some of their stock will change. So if you're leveling up, you're struggling for upgrades, check a vendor when you level up. You might find a really nice upgrade if you're lucky. You can also go back to previous acts. Those vendors, their inventories will also change. So if you're looking for maybe a pair of boots, you're in Act 3, you haven't found a nice pair of boots, you can go, when you level up, check the vendors in Act 3, check the vendors in Act 2, check the vendors in Act 1. Maybe you'll get a bit lucky like that. Now, speaking about jewelry, this is a very big one to not overlook. Jewelry are your rings. You have 2 ring slots, you have an amulet, and you have a belt. Belt is also included in jewelry, but these slots are very nice for kind of rounding out your defenses. You can get resistances on your rings or attributes on your amulet, amongst a whole lot of other things. But I'm talking about these items have these implicit, inherent mods on them. So check out for jewelry. A really good one if you're playing an attack-based build like a warrior or a mercenary. Early on, a small item, just like a white normal rarity iron ring, can go a long way. So see if you can grab one of those. Maybe if you're lucky, a vendor will be selling it, but just a little bit of extra damage. Get your jewelry. That will help you to cap those resistances. Although apparently in PoE 2, we won't really have to cap our resistances during the campaign, according to Viper, but it'll help you just fill out all those slots. And then next, in terms of gear upgrades, and this is a big one. Don't be scared to use the currency that you find. You're going to be finding these orbs on the ground, things like orbs of transmutation, augmentation, regal orbs, and exalted orbs. These are the items that will allow you to craft your items. They explain exactly what they do. I will have a basic crafting guide probably shortly after release, but don't be scared to use your crafting currency. Initially, the economy in Path of Exile is going to be complete mayhem, so hoarding stuff that you could instead use to improve the gear you have to progress further, to get into the end game if you are worried about the economy, rather do it like that. If you need an upgrade, if your weapon is bad and you have an Orb of Alchemy, try find a nice base, like a nice crossbow that looks good, normal rarity, use your Orb of Alchemy on it. You might get a massive upgrade. At the same time though, don't be too flippant with your currency. What I would say is, if you're struggling with something, let's say you're dying a bit too much, or you're not dealing enough damage, then whip out your currency, see if you can get a new base, and then craft on it. If you are doing fine, save your currency. You don't really need to use it right away, but there will be a point where you get to start dying more, not dealing enough damage against that boss. If you've been storing your currency, well, now you can use it on a new base. Maybe get a bit extra life or resistances, defenses, and damage. Don't be scared to use it. Same with your Exalted Orbs. Exalted Orbs in PoE 2 are much more common. So if you have a good item, something with, let's say, 4 really good mods, you don't have to be so scared to use that Exalted Orb on that fairly low level item. And the same thing with runes. PoE 2, we're getting runes. These are nice little socketables. Your items, some of them will have sockets in them. You can put a rune in them. They'll help you increase your damage or defenses in various ways. So again, don't be too scared to use it. Just be aware there's no way to take a rune out of an item once it's gone in, at least currently. So don't just throw in some rubbish, but use those runes to fill out your damage and defenses. Another fairly safe way to not screw up entirely is to just follow the recommended gems. You will be finding things called uncut skill gems and uncut support gems. When you use these, you will be welcome to a window called an engraving window. In there will be a whole lot of recommended gems based on weapon class. So check out those, see which ones are recommended. Generally, these are all going to be safe choices that should serve you very well during the campaign, possibly even early into the end game. If you're feeling very adventurous, take a look. You can take any gem from any weapon or class you want and test it out. But if you're feeling worried about getting overwhelmed, just follow those recommended gems. You should be fine. And then next is to use your uncut gems to upgrade the level of your skill gems. Especially for spells and a lot of attacks and things, the level of your gem will dramatically improve your damage. If you have a very, very low gem, it's not really dealing much damage, try and upgrade it to a higher level with an uncut gem. It should be able to automatically push up the level of an existing gem to the level that it would be if you were to find it in that zone, if that makes sense. It's like a catch-up mechanic. So you'll be able to jump up your one skill from level 3 to level 5 or something. So use those, upgrade your gems, get more damage and defenses. And now a huge one, huge mistake that a lot of people make in Path of Exile 1, and they will make this in Path of Exile 2. Don't be one of these people. Your life flask. This is going to be so important in Path of Exile 2. At least from what we've seen, it looks like recovery, that is essentially getting back a resource like life or mana, but recovery is going to be fairly hard to come by, especially life recovery early on. A good way to combat this early is to use a life flask. Now, as you progress, you will find life flasks that provide a higher amount of life recovery over time. So make sure you're upgrading your life flasks. You can buy new flasks from vendors. So go back, check every few levels. Make sure you're not using your level 1 flask when you're level 20 because it's effectively worthless. If you were to upgrade it, it's a massive defensive layer. So I say treat your flasks with the same respect you treat all other pieces of gear. If you have any respect for your weapon, show some respect for your flasks. This is so important early on. Also make sure to use your charms. Charms are a new thing in PoE 2. These are almost like an automatic counter to certain ailments. So if you get frozen, you could have a charm that says when you are frozen, charm is triggered and you will be unfrozen and immune to freeze for 3 seconds. So if you feel like you're getting frozen a lot, look at some charms. They do consume charges similar to Flasks, so if they don't have charges, you won't be immune to that ailment, but don't forget about these. You can also get more charm slots on your belt, so keep a lookout for belt upgrades. And if you do have an abundance of gold, you've gambled all your upgrades, you have really sick gear, what you can do instead of selling your rare items and magic items to vendors, you can instead disenchant them. This will give you currency shards, and a full stack of currency shards will give you a respective orb of that type. Also remember, you can salvage. So if you salvage items with quality, you can get back scraps that will improve the quality of items that you use it on. You can also salvage items with sockets to get artificers shards. Full stack of these, full stack of 10 will give you an artificer's orb. This you can use to add a socket onto a piece of gear. So if you have a really nice weapon, you want a socket on it, make sure that you're using the salvage bench to get those extra little bits and pieces to form full orbs. Another big one is to complete your side quests and side bosses. PoE 2, finishing these bosses, killing them, you'll often get really interesting rewards. You can get things like increases to spirit and attributes. I haven't seen all of them, but you'll be able to see these on the mini-map. If you open up not the mini-map, but like the map overlay, you'll be able to hover over a little zone and see, okay, if I kill the side boss in this area, he will drop me something that gives me plus 30 to spirit. So make sure you're doing these as you progress, especially if you feel like you're struggling. You can go back to previous acts, kill those bosses, get those upgrades, and then continue hopefully a little bit stronger. And then probably the number one tip is to just join a community or a Discord server. Path of Exile players, we might seem elitist, but in reality, that's really just a loud minority. Majority of PoE players are really cool people. They know how hard this game is, but at the same time, they want you to join us. We really want people to love this game as much as we do. So a lot of Path of Exile players are actually incredibly helpful, very patient, and willing to sit down and teach. I've had so many people in my Discord community who have sat in Discord calls with new players for hours just to help them, teach them, get them up to speed, and get their builds working. So if you want, you can join my Discord server. It's linked in the description. Ask questions. Seriously, never ever start a question with, I'm sorry if this is a stupid question or this is a dumb question, but don't do that. Just ask. Just say, hey, I don't understand this thing. Can someone help me, please? I promise you there will be someone in there who is like jumping to help you, get you sorted out. If there's no one online for some reason, I will be live on Twitch. You can always come and ask me. So get involved with the community. I promise you, we're not as scary and elitist as you think. Most of us are actually pretty nice. Then, last, and this is actually the most important tip, but that is to just have fun. Seriously, it's a game, man. If you're taking this too seriously, don't kill the fun for yourself. It's a game. If having fun means going as fast as you can, trying to rush to the end game, kill the bosses as quickly as possible, great, do it. But if fun for you is chilling with your friends, reading all the lore, getting immersed in the world of Path of Exile, don't let anyone make you feel bad for being, on day 3, oh wow, you're only level 14, what are you doing? That doesn't matter. If you're having fun and they're not, you're winning. So do what you need to have a good time. I'm going to be live tomorrow for the launch of Path of Exile 2. Link for my Twitch is in the description. There's also a written version of this guide over on Mobalytics that'll also be linked in the description. Links to my Patreon, Discord, all that, all down there. Let me know what you're planning to play on League Start for PoE 2. I am super excited. I'm going to be League Starting a Witch Hunter. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.